Right, I was winning the Scudetto last year. Napoli are a team that could really strengthen and improve within European football. Got a range of really good players, including many that have sort of been seen as rejects from other clubs. I'm talking about Lukaku, McTominay. But if we are going to win more silverware, we're going to need to bring more players in and improve our formation and tactics. With that, we decided to bring in Darwin Núñez. I know he's gone to Saudi in real life, but I think he's a player that could really suit Napoli. As you saw just then, our formation is sort of aiming to have two strikers, so we want a big man and someone that can sort of just pace and run through the back line. With that, we had a bunch of other transfers. Just looking through, we sent a few players on loan that weren't particularly good. At the minute, we sold Politano on. Mazzocchi, I don't think he's really going to break into our team, to be honest. Leone, we did sign. I know he's gone to Liverpool, but he's a player that I really highly rate. Osimhen, of course, doesn't want to be with us anymore, so we did sell him to Juventus for quite a lot of money. Ruggeri, I think he's, quite a high potential player. Saw him in the Italian Euro Championship for under 21s, I think. De Bruyne, of course, to reflect in real life. Should have really got him for free. And Ben Doak, gone to Bournemouth, but I think with our sort of wing-back formation, he would be a really suitable choice. And in the first game, you can see he is going to start for us, including with Di Lorenzo playing as a centre-back. I will be honest, my knowledge of Italian football teams isn't amazing. So Cagliari may be our, sort of danger team for a lot of big teams, but we had a good start nevertheless. De Bruyne playing it through nicely, and Núñez had a really good finish. We kept the pressure up later in the game, playing it around quite nicely. I think De Bruyne is a player that really unlocks a lot of aspects that we didn't really have before, and Núñez there doing what he does best, just finishing all the really easy chances, and again, another one there. We did take De Bruyne off in the 70th minute, giving Gilmore some minutes. I think he's also a good player. He offers a different profile for sort of what we're used to. A really good save from our keeper there, just to make sure we get that 1-0 win. And we push on, seeing what we can do in the rest of the league. Ruggeri here, I think he's a really good player. That he's not that pacey, but he's quite strong and he's got a good pass on him. And I think with sort of Núñez and Lukaku, I think you can see that combination working really well. Dovbyk had a really good turn here. And, Roma, they are a tricky team to play against. As you can see, they did score before us. It was a really well-worked chance as they just played it around us, quite patient and played across the goal. But end of the day, we always had something to respond with. It's a really good floated ball in, and it's that man Ruggeri with a really good finish, which is really important to see from our wing-backs. We brought on Lindstrom later in the game. He's probably not really suitable as a right mid. And maybe that's the reason that Dovbyk or Roma at least had the chance to sort of score later on. But Raspadori, I think having these players in the subs bench that can just sort of play in a range of different roles, it just means that we have more options later in the game, which I think in Serie A is so important. But I think this is absolute wonder goal from McTominay. This is what he does. 2-2, last minute of the game, does a little turn and just runs through. It's an amazing finish there. I think, it's really hard sometimes in FIFA to know, should I play him up front, should I play him as a CDM, but I think McTominay can essentially play wherever he needs to be. Going on to our next game, we unfortunately messed up a 1-0 win and left it as a draw, as Dele Alli had a really good finish actually. Maybe keeper could have done a little bit better, but Anderlecht, Lukaku got a hat-trick, but that again wasn't enough as we also drew that game in the Champions League group stage. I think although the results are quite mixed, I'd say that we are competing in every game and that's the most important thing. And yeah, as you can see, the form picks up a little bit later on. Up against Fiorentina, they're quite a tricky team, obviously have some European pedigree within their side, so we knew it was going to be a tricky game. Really amazing ball from De Bruyne there, and Núñez, although he does miss a few chances, he can put it away, and Lukaku again. He's obviously a bit renowned for sort of messing up some easy chances in big games. But, when you have Ben Doak sinking in a ball like that, how can you miss it? Núñez again, just hitting it back to back. This is the thing about having two strikers, you just have more options of how you want to play it. And even in terms of our defenders, they're just doing a really good job as well. 3-0 up, I just sort of thought the game would be polished off, but it was a really good tidy finish from Moise Kean. With it 3-1, Ruggeri sprinted straight up the pitch, played a really nice ball into Núñez. Fortunately didn't go in, but he did score soon after, as it was another chance for him. I believe it's Raspadori here, just a tricky sort of side pass, and 4-1 up, but quickly made a 4-2 as Moise Kean then a tidy finish and making it a hat-trick for himself. but we responded again. I don't know what's going on, but Nunes got himself a hat-trick as well. I'll be honest, I don't think we're going to find a more crazy game the whole of this season than this game against Fiorentina. As there's another last-minute finish, making it 5-3 in the end. In January, we were deciding, sort of looking at players that we could strengthen the team with. I think, he probably doesn't really suit our system amazingly, but I've seen clips of him. He looks like a baller, he looks like he can dribble, which I think, if I'm looking at profiles of who I want to bring in, I want to bring in players that have a bit of character more than anything. And, you're talking about Milan, big games, De Bruyne, oozes character. Look at this finish, amazing. Up against Juventus in the Serie A, it's a good header from the player, I think it was Osimhen, and we just responded by hoofing it up. Lukaku did a tiny little target man sort of play there. Again, just hoofing it up because we're not scared to do that. I believe that's Raspadori there, just playing it through nicely. I think this game was going to be quite a stressful one, to be honest, as we were up against Osimhen, the man we did let go. Although Nunes did score, our fears were realised as we managed to give away a last-minute penalty from Romani, I think that's how you say it. And yeah, Osimhen won himself a penalty, and of course was going to take it himself as well. Wasn't too optimistic, but I was right because that's an unreal penalty and we did screw up a win there. Checking our loanees, it's pretty good progress from across the board. We did decide to move on Neres and Cajuste. They just weren't really getting enough minutes. So sent Cajuste on loan, and I believe Neres we were sort of opting to sell instead to replace him with probably like a lower profile, so like a more young player that will probably be happy not playing as much. We did bring in David Moves from Slavia Prague, I think it is. Up against Leverkusen, I think we do have a habit of playing teams that I've used in other career modes. Lukaku doing what he does best again, just muscling the player out and just making a sort of simple finish. From what I recall, we weren't doing particularly well in the league phase, so we did need a win in this game. But obviously it wasn't going to be too easy because even though Leverkusen have sold a lot of players, they're still a strong team. They've got a somewhat decent manager, but luckily we managed to make it 2-0, and it was that man De Bruyne. He seemed to only really sort of make a proper impact in the big games, I'd say. Not that he's bad in the smaller games, but he just seems like a little bit like McTominay, where he's just there to make an impact. He's like a moments player, something like that. We thought we did have it polished off, but I think it was Lookman. Made a nice little sort of opening for himself and put it away. It was really annoying that I don't know why Verts is still even in the team in this career mode, but we made it 2-2, and unfortunately that was again just letting go of a win. We did just about qualify still, which I actually had to check on Google if 24th place even qualifies, but I guess we did. And looking at the stats, it was pretty impressive. I think De Bruyne had done very well, but he is declining. So we did maybe have to think about who do we need to bring in to strengthen the team. But until that point, we still pushing on in the playoff phase, playing against Fenerbahce, and Nunes kicked us off early with a nice finish. Checking the replay, it was quite patient build-up. Ben Doak again. He's a young player, but he has pace. He has the ability to just beat his man and create a little bit of space. And on that end, I think even on the right side he can be dangerous. But on the left side we do have Ruggeri, who, as you can see, can just drive up with the ball. He's probably a bit better than Doak in terms of passing. But surprisingly, Lukaku seems to be showing qualities I've never seen before. He seems to be dribbling through people like he's sort of like 22 again or something. 2-0 up. Unfortunately, El Nazir, I think pronounce it as, had a really nice finish there. Dolwizzy responded in suit as he made himself a brace. Ben Doak again. It's simple play. It's not complicated. And I think that's Serie A football. That's what Italy does. It's not too complex. It's tactical, but it's not about being athletic. It's just about being there, finding the space. And maybe in some ways Turkey's like that too, because they seem to be doing quite well against us. Decided to shift McTominay up into sort of the cam role, so you can maybe box crash a bit, and Ali got his debut as well. Somehow, again, I don't know what's going on, but we just seem to be losing all these. We were 3-1 up. I don't know how we've messed this up. It's a decent finish, but come on. Can't be, never mind drawing it. Why are we losing it now as well? Talisca, I think he's a player that, I'll be honest, I'll keep my eye on actually. I think he's a Napoli-esque player. I want to say he was in Saudi at some point, but anyways, let's not think about that. I don't know how we screwed up that game. Even though we did lose the first leg, we did decide that, Ben Doak, he's a player that I know we've loaned him in this career mode, but I think we need to make that permanent. He's a player that I think could grow. His potential is huge, it's massive, and if we secure him now for a contract, then hopefully we don't have to pay too much. Looking at his wages, it's very low anyway, so we'll give him a little bit extra just to be nice. Okay, so ask for a little bit more, a bit greedy, but we'll take it. With that, we've signed him for 7 mil. I think it's a bargain. Ignore him being at Ipswich. I don't know where that even came from. A little bit strange, but with that, hopefully he can make more of an impact knowing his future is secure with us as we go into the second leg. Or maybe not, maybe we're just going to concede in like the first 2 minutes or something. Obviously playing away against Fenerbahce will never be an easy game. Even if you're Real Madrid, it's a game that you could just lose completely randomly, and obviously they do have quality as well in their squad. The second leg seems to be completely different to the first leg. It just seemed like neither team could score that easily. And although we did manage to get a goal at the end, and Núñez decided to use his time wisely for us and just hide in the net, it was going to be a struggle to sort of get more goals and sort of push on. Again, Ben Doak doing what he does. Some of our players like Doak, De Bruyne and Lukaku, they were tiring, but we couldn't afford to take them off, especially when our subs had no stamina as well. This is our last chance here, and we had to really work it around and see what we could do with it. I think that's Ben Doak there. He tried to take a shot, and it wasn't bad to be fair, but it just wasn't enough in the end, as we did end up crashing out in the first sort of playoff phase. And with that, rumours were going to circle, could Conte stay in the job? And with a few games left also, we were standing in 5th place, so was it even secured that we were going to be in Champions League football next year? Going up against Milan, it was an important game. We really needed 3 points in pretty much every game we play on from here. And with Milan, it's going to be a 6-pointer as well. So seeing that Loftus-Cheek had scored so early on was not a good sign for us. I have seen in real life Milan have made some quite interesting transfers, so it will be interesting to see, can they measure up quite well against the likes of Napoli, who are a team of, again, I always say like mismatch sort of players. It's like they could be amazing on their day, but also they're not the best. Some of the clubs have not rated them. We will ignore that loss against Milan. It is what it is. It's only 3 points. But Como, teams like this, obviously they got tons of quality, like Nico Paz, amazing player. But we can't afford to lose to them, especially if we want to be in the Champions League next year. And players like De Bruyne, they're the ones who are going to make that happen. He just was sort of drifting through in a really amazing finish. I think it's funny, he wasn't even doing that in City, so I don't know why he's doing that with us, but who's to say? It's a little bit like McTominay. He just left United, and obviously he's an absolute baller for us, but he's showing qualities he's never shown before. Now he's at Napoli, so maybe that's what we do, which is unlock players. Decided to give that little highlight, just 30 different angles, just in case you wanted it. And yeah, really good ball from Lukaku and a great finish, as we were 2-0 down, but we managed to pull it back against Verona. Don't ask me how, but both teams somehow got a red card at some point. So it opened the game up nicely, and in the end, 86th minute, it was Darwin Núñez. Who else would it be? I think teams did make the mistake often of just leaving their half open to us, and if you've got pace, we're going to punish. So with that in mind, we were progressing quite nicely, only a few games left, up against Lazio, who were in 4th place, so it did really matter that we did beat them today. I think it would be realistic that Napoli would struggle to retain their title, but with players like McTominay, who knows, maybe they could win a second sort of Scudetto in the run. One thing I do like about the Italian league is it's quite competitive. You don't really have teams that are just winning it every single year, which, to be honest, can happen in the Prem at times, even though it is competitive across sort of the whole table. I would say at the top sometimes it does feel like it's just sort of one team always. Lazio looks really, really good in this game. I think it's Ida, the name of the player. We don't know a ton about him, but maybe he's a player that could end up going to a different side, like a Prem side in the future. Towards the end of the game, I think we came back into it. Again, it's Ben Doak just running through, and I think him and Núñez have formed a really good partnership throughout the season. Even though Lindstrom and Ali probably weren't, sort of morale or form wasn't the best, we did put them on, but unfortunately it did end with a 2-2 draw. That actually, come to think, it was actually enough to sort of keep us in 4th place. At the time I did think we were in 5th, but all we had to do basically was just win this game, and 3 points would secure us a place in Champions League next year. Unfortunately, Udinese scored very early on, and it was a really good finish from, I believe, that was Sanchez actually. So we really had some making up to do basically for the rest of the game. Really good shot from De Bruyne there, but not quite enough just yet. And it looked like the game could be over as they almost scored straight after. I think that chance really kicked us into our sort of gears as good shot again from De Bruyne, and Dope tried to sort of shift it through, and unfortunately it was a 1-0 loss, so wasn't too optimistic that we were going to make Champions League. Unfortunately we had to also just mess up against a team that wasn't really particularly supposed to beat us, or particularly like a good team, I would say. But miracles do happen. Somehow Lazio also lost their game, so we were going to get Champions League next year. Looking at the stats, Nunes had a pretty decent season. De Bruyne was probably more impressive, and a lot of assists from across the board. Our goalkeeper Capriel did quite well as well. Looking at contracts, Simeone, Spinazzola would be leaving on a free. Just didn't think it'd be realistic to renew their contracts, especially as they're aging and their roles on the team weren't particularly great. But as you can see, the stats were quite impressive for that year. And with that would end the first season of the Napoli career mode. I think this career mode so far is probably the most fun I've had out of any. I think there's a lot of players I didn't really know a ton about, that just bringing them into the team I learned more about and sort of got to use different formations. So excited to move on to the next episode. We will be having a season 2 for this. So yeah, look out for that video, and thank you very much for watching.